Well, I say welcome to everybody. Like I'm sure we have already, but welcome. Thanks for showing up in such a great crowd. It's going to be a wonderful evening. Before we start, I just want to ask Saffia and Zander, what was it like to make this new movie after the last one, and what is the connection with the previous?
Well, we started off with some characters who go back quite a long way. Zander, I think you first devised Harland Quinn back in the 1990s, didn't you?
That's right. I was doing a lot of radio drama, working as a resident producer for a public radio station in the States, and he just kind of emerged from a number of different, actually it was all satire, and hence the name. And I'll also point out that this was after my youthful comic book days. So 1995 was the first time a detective character named Harland Quinn showed up. So I wasn't actually tracking much in the way of like DC Comics at the time. I didn't even know about Harley Quinn then. The name was actually, in addition to being a play on the Harlequin name, was also a nod to one of my favorite authors, Harlan Ellison. So yeah, Quinn's been around since 95.
And the other character, who's been around a long time, was Mr. Biggins. Biggins.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he was originally in a short story by Ola's Clean Slate, which we filmed for Designing Worlds years and years and years ago for Halloween episode.
I remember that, yeah.
Yes, and after that, Aeolus very kindly let us use Mr. Biggins in a number of shows where he kind of has misadventures, to the point at which Mosavino Tank, the owner of New Babbage, has described the Biggins family as being New Babbage's red shirts. So those characters all came together with others in a show we put on about 8 or 9 years ago now, which was called The Black and Mirror, which was very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, Zander and I were talking, and we thought, wouldn't it be good to combine those characters, not with a sort of 1930s setting that we started with, but how about putting them into the Fairelands and see what happens to them there? Because, of course, New Babbage is basically a Faireland. So, yeah.
First question that arises, how do you combine that? Because you have old and new Fairelands. So, or maybe we should talk about that after the. It seems difficult to me. How did you solve that?
Well, if you think about it, Junction brings together a certain number of the regions every year. So like this year we have the 2021 regions, or the 20 regions plus Junction. But then they fade into the mist, but they're still there. They're still going on. Especially if the region designers are complete pack rats and have kept them all in their inventories.
Okay.
And so what we did was we have drawn out various regions, recent ones and very old ones, to create the many worlds of the Fairelands.
Okay.
So would you like to see it now?
Yeah. Well, that's me saying yes. Maybe you guys don't. Ace is barking. Yeah. Yeah, we all really want to see the movie and then get on with the questions. So, yes.
Okay.
So people, the film will be in. Sophia's putting it in the screen, and what you do is you double click in the middle of the screen, and then it starts.
Okay. And in case you can't get it on the screen, this is the link that you need. Right, so shall we say 1, 2, 3, go?
This is FNN, the Fairelands News Network.
Good evening, I'm Clara St. John, and this is FNN's Fairelands Evening News. Our top story tonight: authorities continue to monitor the recent outbreaks of what some are now calling the Omega Hex. While the exact nature of the phenomenon remains in question, the dangers posed by it are quite real. FNN has been following the story. For more, we're joined now in the studios by Jim Gallagher from the Ministry of Arcane Affairs. Minister?
This is FNN, the Fairelands News Network.
Good evening, I'm Clara St. John, and this is FNN's Fairelands Evening News. Our top story tonight: authorities continue to monitor the recent outbreaks of what some are now calling the Omega Hex. While the exact nature of the phenomenon remains in question, the dangers posed by it are quite real. FNN has been following the story. For more, we're joined now in the studios by Jim Gallagher from the Ministry of Arcane Affairs. Minister, welcome.
Thank you very much, Clara.
In the opinion of the Ministry, how worried should Fairelanders be about this strange anomaly?
Obviously, there is some legitimate cause for concern.
That's quite an understatement in light of all
I don't want to create unnecessary panic.
Yes, I understand, but
We have some of the best minds in the Ministry working on the problem, and we're aided by top scientists and mages from Lucitech Industries, so things are in good hands, to say the very least.
You mentioned Lucitech Industries, and I'd like to follow up on that, because there have been suggestions in recent days that they might have been the source of the original outbreak. Minister, is there any reason to suspect that this is the case? And if so...
Those are nothing but rumours, and damned irresponsible ones at that. It's a travesty to see a good company's name besmirched in this way. Lucitech Industries has been working diligently on the problem, and at no small expense to themselves, I might add.
I'm sure we're all most grateful for their efforts. But let's turn now to what may not be an easy question to answer. Minister, is this in fact the legendary Omega Hex?
I understand that giving it such a sensational name appeals to many in the media, but I can assure you this is nothing more than a typical arcane anomaly. Circumstances like this are precisely what the Ministry was created for in the first place. I can also happily report that the investigation is being directed by Dr. Susanna Hall of Lucitech Industries. The public can sleep peacefully, knowing that she, her colleagues and we in the Ministry are making every effort to eliminate the danger. And that's exactly what we will do.
That's certainly news that will come as a great relief to our viewers, I've no doubt. And I hope that you'll come back and speak with us again as the story continues to develop. Minister, thank you for joining us.
It was my pleasure, Clara.
That was Jim Gallagher from the Ministry of Arcane Affairs. In other news, it's been more than a month since the Bard Queen made her last public appearance. When we return from the break, we'll be speaking with a representative of the Bard Queen's office. I'm Clara St. John, and you're watching FNN's Fairelands Evening News. Our program continues in just a moment.
They say everybody has to trust something. A friend, a partner, a institution, or an idea. Maybe a dog. I don't know if it much matters who or what you trust, but you gotta trust something. I'm no different. I trust 3 pounds of steel and lead distilled into a specific form called the single-action semi-automatic Colt 45. In a world of enchanted swords, heavy-duty incantations, and rings of power, I guess my weapon of choice is something of an oddity. You don't need magic if you got a steady hand and a decent eye. As for me, I guess I don't really fit into this world any better than my sidearm does. I ended up here because of a good run of bad choices. Keep that up long enough and pretty soon you find that down the rabbit hole is the only road left to take. But hey, at least here I don't stand out much.
Hey, you there! Boy! What are you doing? Do you think I am blind? I see you there. You did not pay for that.
I'm just a dull gray smear on the landscape, so it's easy to slip through the shadows unnoticed. Even in a realm as blasted by the sun as this one, there are always shadows. I got a real knack for finding them. And after all I've been through, the shadows are just where I want to be.
Hello, Harland, Quinn.
Linda Stilale. You're a long way from the Underdark. You get lost on the way home from Sunday school? What are you doing here, Lindis?
At the moment, I am simply hoping that we can talk.
Oh yeah, 'cause you're such a people person. I mean, just ask Nikolai.
How is he doing?
How is he recovering?
Good to hear. Now, are you going to offer a lady a friendly drink, or what? This place suits you.
I got no complaints. I'm getting by.
Well, I'm afraid that you won't be getting by for very much longer.
Is that a threat?
It's a warning.
Oh yeah, see, now there's the Lindis I know.
Have you not been following the news?
Well, sure I have. Let's see. Mr. Adnan's camel is pregnant, and his wife wants to name the calf after me. There have been some bandit raids up north, and the shepherds are thinking about forming a guild to deal with it. And just last month it rained in the Western Valley. First time in, well...
Have you been following the news about the Omega Hex?
From what I hear, the Ministry has things under control.
The Ministry is lying.
Oh, lying bastards lie. What else is new?
Don't you get it? They are deliberately downplaying the threat. The question is why.
I don't know why, and I don't think you do either. If you did, you wouldn't be here wasting my time, because the one thing I do know is that the Omega Hex is just a myth.
You've been in the Fairelands long enough to know that myths can be quite real and quite deadly. I know you don't trust me. That's fine. I understand, and I can't blame you for that. But think about it, Quinn. This anomaly appears. People are getting hurt. People are getting killed. and neither the government nor the media seem to be taking it seriously. Those are incontrovertible facts. Wake up, Harland. You can be an arrogant, lying bastard too, but you are not stupid. People are dying.
Oh yeah? Well, you can be a cold-hearted... Wait, what do you mean? Who's dying?
Many people. I wasn't saying...
You want me to trust you? You want me to look past the unsavory parts of our history? You better start playing it straight with me, Lindis. What happened?
There was an incursion in the Underdark 2 days ago. This thing, whatever it is, it showed up down there, destroying everything it touched. Nothing could stop it. One by one, they tried. Every last one of them fell. And my mother tried to.
I'm sorry.
I don't want your sympathy.
Oh no, easy does it, Lindis.
How do you honor the dead when all that's left is a pile of ashes? And it's not just the Underdark. It's happening in other places, other realms. The same story, the anomaly appears. People resist it and they die. And sooner or later, it will show up here. It is going to take someone you care about. If there's anyone alive who fits that description. I wasted a trip, didn't I?
What do you want from me, Lindis? I mean, if you're right, if it really is some doomsday element out of the pages of Faireland lore, what the hell could I do about it? Do you really think bullets and a bad attitude are going to be enough to stop this thing if drow magic can't?
What I think is that coming here in the hope that you might care about something other than yourself was a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Quinn. It is really quite a life you've made for yourself here. And I suppose the good news is that you won't be around long enough to screw it up.
Yeah, good to see you too. Way to go, Harland. Damn it, who the hell is that? You okay?
I'll live. Did you get a good look at him?
Well, enough to know he wasn't a very big fan of yours.
Yes, I got that impression too.
We need to get back inside. We're sitting ducks out here.
Quinn!
Oh no. Come on, kid, snap out of it. Is he...
He's alive, but he won't be for much longer.
We gotta get him to... What the hell are you doing, Lindis? Whoa, you're okay, kid. Take it easy. Slow, deep breaths. There you go.
Mr. Quinn, I don't...
It's okay. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Then I'm lucky you were here. Both of you.
Yeah. Lucky, I guess. Alright, you head home and try to take it easy, kid. You really gonna be okay?
He'll be fine.
Somebody wants you dead.
Yes, they do.
Somebody thinks you're onto something, and whoever they are, they ain't happy about it.
No, they're not.
Yeah. Damn. All right.
All right, what?
All right. I'm in.
Whoa. Wow. Make sure that everybody stop watching it. Oh, this is really wonderful. Some people are still watching. Shall we give it 30 seconds?
Yeah. There were a lot of people involved in this. I mean, it started with a brilliant, brilliant script by Zander. And then so many people have worked on this, pulling it together, helping us realize the vision.
I saw the titling. I mean, so many names on it. And it must have taken you how long?
Well, we've been working on this first episode the best part of a year. The scripts are pretty much finished for all 6 parts, and we have some more film in the can.
And do you know how many episodes?
There will be 6 episodes, that we know for certain.
Our goal is to release at least episodes 2 and 3 over the course of the next year, 10 months to a year, and then hopefully be in the position to premiere the final 3 episodes at the fair next year. That's the tentative plan at the moment, anyway.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate all that supportive comments. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, the comments from the audience.
Definitely.
Also during the film, people are really into it. Well, me too. I chewed my fingernails. So.
And you too, Panza. It's good to see you here, Panza.
I was pretty nervous actually showing this. So I was really glad that everyone seems to like it.
Like releasing your baby to the outside world, are you? But
it is pretty much, yes.
I understand that, but you have nothing to be nervous about. It's really well done. Everything is well done. The voice work, the music. Do you have somebody composing that for you, the music?
Well, Zander does the music, and it's just wonderful. It just blows me away every time listening to it.
It's a really wonderful service called Audio Blocks that we've been using for years to provide us with music beds for the various promos and things like that we use for Fantasy Fair Radio. It's an incredible. If you're producing a project and you really want to get really good music, it's an enormous inventory of music. There's all kinds of wonderful ways you can search through it. And for what you get, it's really an extremely reasonable price. It's about $300 for a year of this service, and you can use it in any project, personal project, commercial project that you are working on. But we are having, in some later episodes, a very dear old friend of mine, a college friend of mine who I did a lot of theater with, is a composer and is composing some original music for us. So once we actually come into to the later episodes and start to really get deeper into what the Omega Hex is, it will have its own sort of music theme. And dear friend of mine, Mary Smith, is going to be composing some original music for that. So I'm really excited to get to work with her. It's been since college. It's been 35 years since we worked on a show together. So this has been really great. And Mary is actually the one who connected us, the fair this year, with Synovus Bank, which is how we got, they made a $5,000 sponsorship of Fantasy Fair 2022 and are very interested in being even more involved in sponsoring the fair next year. So that's been a really productive connection. I actually lost my oldest, dearest friend, my mentor, Robin Hale, to cancer back in October. And Mary and I reconnected around Robin's passing. And a lot of good things have come of that connection, including the Synovus Bank donation to sponsorship, and also this chance to work with her as a composer on some original music for the show. So a silver lining to what was a pretty dark cloud.
Yeah, I imagine something really good comes from it. And I heard people probably joke about it, but I heard that before when we showed Machinimas, and with this one, of course, 100%. People joke about sending it to Netflix, and Netflix should be interested. But my daughter is like really into anime, Japanese stuff, and this is, well, maybe this is my opinion, but this is better.
Well, it's funny, I wrote a short story, and this was, good Lord, Seth, I don't even know if you'll... It was the year, there was sort of a drought-themed region that I want to say Charlotte Nitschke wrote or created for the fair.
Yes, I remember that one.
And there was a region tour, one of the LitFest region tours to that region, and I went, and this was several years after Blackened Mirror had run, and I love to go on those region tours when I can and just kind of find a quiet spot and listen to the music that's being played by the DJs and do some writing of my own. And what came of that was Harland Quinn suddenly came roaring back into my head, and it was essentially just what we have here thematically. It's take a Elmore Leonard or Mickey Spillane and smash him into Tolkien or George R. Martin or what have you, and I kind of enjoy. I love to do that. Just kind of collide different styles and genres into one another. And what came out of it was a short story, the beginning of a short story with Quinn, and he has what I consider to be sort of the encounter with the ultimate femme fatale. I mean, every one of those hard-boiled detective stories begins with a visit from a femme fatale, and I thought, well, what could be femmier or fatalier than a drow warrior priestess? So that's where the whole idea of that initial scene came about, and then I showed this short story to Saffia. I don't think I even showed it to her at the time, but I showed it to her at the end of the fair last year, and she said, we should do this. We should, run with this as the start for a story and get back into machinima production. So it's been kind of brewing for a long time. And when Saffia thought that was a great way to begin a story, it just kind of ignited a fire underneath us. And after the fair closed last year, I think the day after it closed, I sat down and I started writing, and the first episode was done in a day and a half, I think. And Saffia was just incredible at just taking the scripts and helping me to refine the vision for where it needed to go. Made enormous contributions. It's my name on the byline, but this script is really a collaboration between Saffia and I. She's the one who created the idea for that wonderful setup with the boy in the first scene where he gets caught stealing the orange, so that we could then bring him back at the end of that episode to introduce that hook for why Quinn gets emotionally invested in this. That was great. I just thought that was brilliant. And there's some even more amazing plot twists that are coming up in subsequent episodes that are really just all Saffia in this.
He's the driving force. He knows where it's going, and I'm just, throwing in ideas and hoping they'll stick.
I don't know. I think you make a good team. I think one is as important as the other. It's a very good combination in the writing and every part of it. It's yeah.
And another we got to give a big hat tip here to Tara Volatant, who is doing work on this, without which it would just simply be impossible. The kind of work with movers that you think of in terms of dance performances here in Second Life. But Tara has, in a way, pioneered a whole new way to use these that give us the ability to have those amazing action sequences that we got in this episode, and some even bigger stuff coming later on. It's just an enormous amount of work. So between Tara's brilliant technical direction, Ash's incredible flair for character creation, she's the one who's kind of guiding and shaping the avatar development, and having just an incredible cast and crew to work with, Pet Love Pet Shop and Bane Finch, who are doing some extraordinary cinematography work in this, so that then when Saf and I get into the editing booth at the end, it's the hard part is we've got so much great stuff, and we want to keep it down to a fairly brisk 15 to 20 minutes per episode, and we've got more great stuff than we know what to do with. And also Kel Matzereth, who of course is the region designer for that location we're in there, the Shifting Sands. It's an extraordinary, just like the fair, just like anything in Second Life, it's an incredible combination of talents and skills that are required to bring something as big and as complex as this together. And just to be able to capture it all on film, and that's the beauty of editing, video, audio, whatnot. You get all the raw materials and you're able to get it there and lock it in place, and then forevermore there it is. It's it doesn't degrade with time. It doesn't it doesn't begin to yellow in the edges or something. So I just think it's wonderful that we're able to do this in a way that not only helps us to tell stories, but also helps us to kind of preserve and expand the reach of the fair's mythology. That's really the function of Fairelands Media, the new production company. We want to do stories that will enable us to ultimately reach out to an audience that's not within these virtual shores. To be able to share this story with a wider world. And this first one that we're doing, it was very much about, let's do something that's really a love letter to Fairlanders, to the Fairlands themselves. But as we go forward, our goal is to start to tell stories that you don't have to know anything about the fair, you don't have to know anything about Second Life, in order to really appreciate as a story. So we're real excited about what's coming, what's next after this sort of inaugural production.
Well, I think you did that really well, because I was just thinking that before you said it, how interesting the story and the whole thing is, also to people that know nothing about Second Life. That's why I say it would be a good thing to go further with this. Wouldn't know how, of course. I have no connections at Netflix or other forms, but I'm slowly starting to think that the time is there.
It may well be, and I think the ability to create something like, so many friends who are independent filmmakers, and, it used to be that if you wanted to make a movie, you needed a script and, maybe somebody to get you in the door, but, really the way things get done nowadays is, independent filmmakers just make the movie themselves, and that then becomes a kind of calling card that you can use to open the door to someone who comes along and says, okay, now we want to remake this, and we're going to give you, $20 million to do it. So,
That would be nice.
I think that we can create stories that have a lot of potential, and then, if that becomes something that helps us to extend on the story, not just of the Fairlands, but also of Relay for Life, and bring more energy and attention there, then, that's what really, as a fundraiser, that's what really appeals to me, is the idea that we can go beyond what we're capable of doing here, and tell this broader story about not just the fair, but about what ACS is doing worldwide to combat cancer. Then, that really gets me interested and gets me excited.
Yeah. Gwen, Bane is setting up a group that's going to go over the basics of filmmaking. And it's a Discord group, and I think you could get a lot of that out of it. In fact, I think many people here would be able to get a lot out of it. And then there's the Machinima Monday group that meets every Monday. Yeah. And that has wonderful advice and screens lots of things that will help people to make their own films.
Yeah, we have beginning filmmakers, we have experienced filmmakers, we have workshops, and everybody's really welcome. Yeah,
We have people who make films completely on their own, and they're absolutely wonderful. And I suppose we're at the other end, Zander, with like a large cast and a large crew.
we had a filmmaker earlier that was saying, oh, that was yesterday, Christine. She works alone now. She says, I work on my own. I do everything myself. And every evening we had a different guest and different films, and we all approach it from a different side. This has been a wonderful week, knowing all the different ways we work. And, well, you guys are so professional. If you look at the cover, it's amazing.
Bane is... I've just never seen anyone who can do tracking shots and pans and so on like him. I mean, he did that wonderful shot at the beginning that pans out from the TV screen in Centaur's hut and up to the magnificent sand fountain, and then he did that shot at the end where you move over and down past the crystal into the darkness. Absolutely wonderful.
I was talking to Bane actually not long after we got those two shots in the can, and I said, I don't understand how you are able to do that. And Bane says to me, well, I guess all those years playing flight simulator games paid off. And I thought, my God, of course that's what it is. Of course that's what it is.
And I also know
he's a living example of what I always say, in Second Life, you are not your avatar, you are your camera. And Bane is living proof that that's true.
And
the lip sync also. I remember you giving a workshop at Machinima Mondays a while ago, Zander.
Yeah. We're really blessed that, and the reason why this became possible after all those years not being able to finish the Black and Mirror series, the reason why we decided it was time to revisit this idea of doing machinima and doing these kinds of stories was because of the advances that have happened in terms of mesh heads in particular. And we're using taking a pretty standardized approach for all of the actor avatars using a Lelutka head. And there is just so much that is now possible with those heads. A real hats off to what those creators have done. We're able to get some really lovely nuanced changes, inflections of emotion, eyebrows raising, and micro gestures and expressions flitting across the face, and eyes that dart to the side. So, and one of the things that is included in that Lelutka head kit is a set of gestures that will drive the jaw on the avatars. So rather than be dependent upon what we have always used in the past, using speech like we're doing in Second Life here today to drive the jaw, we're actually starting and stopping the jaw movement with keyboard shortcuts that are plugged into gestures. And you're able to get much more accurate number of lip flaps for whatever the line is. But then we still do come back when we look at the final footage. We don't use any on-set audio for the final dialogue. We do all of that in post, which is essentially the way it's done in feature film and most animation, all Western animation, in fact. But here, we come back and we look at it, and so there is often some modifications being done to the dialogue to make sure that we get as close as possible to lip sync. It's a Lelutka head, Gwen. Lelutka.
The other day, Huckleberry Hacks was talking about in his new film that he is using what's it called? Terry, remind me. It's the old system that you used to use for moving people around.
Oh yeah, the software he got from Marketplace. It's not spot on, but
We've seen Meta Harper.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
She
No, me,
has a new one, a newer one. But I was telling him how we constructed the first market scene with Quinn walking through the market and the centres moving around, and how we'd done that whole thing using Meta Harper. And it just looks, I think it looks really cool, seeing the centaurs moving around and Quinn in the middle.
It's so funny too, we encountered this in Black and Mirror, and this part is still true. You look at the script and you think, okay, now this is going to be really tough, this big action sequence, and all these things have to happen, and it all has to be coordinated. And, if you've got somebody like Tara who really understands those mover systems, it turns out that it's a lot of work for Tara, but the actual execution of getting it on film is really, like he's doing the hard work. For us, it's just hop on the movers and go. But try standing up from a chair realistically. Now that's really asking a lot, So it's kind of counterintuitive what it turns out is easy and what it turns out is ridiculously, absurdly difficult to actually capture.
When we were doing the Black and Mirror, there was one sequence that took us over 8 hours to film. And it was simply people standing in the street, walking round a corner, walking halfway down the street. Quinn, who is in the lead, turns round, the others stop, and he yells at them. Now you would think that movement was dead easy. It took us 8 hours to capture, and it was never completely right. When Tara discovered Racine, because he'd been doing some sort of explosives work for us, but with Racine, he realised that he could do this walking down the street and turning round. And then, to convince everyone that we had to use Racine, all I did was I said, stand here, now. Tara will switch it on, and everyone knew exactly what scene it was. And it was like, oh my God, this is wonderful. So that was
Revelation.
when we became
Real
converted.
revelation. And yes, Gwen, Saffia and Tara are working together, in the weeks before we actually get around to a shoot, and they're working all of that out. And then we do a technical rehearsal. We shot this on the weekends over this past year. Starting, I guess we started shooting in late September, early October. So they're working, together to make sure that when we come together over the course of the following weekend, we have everything we need in place in order to shoot. So it's very much being blocked ahead of time, yes.
And the other person who is completely indispensable is Ketsui Nadu. Because she builds a lot of the animations that we need, a lot of the custom animations. So that whole business of Quinn flipping the coin and the guy catching it, that was Kets and Tara working together. And it was wonderful. But I would emphasise that the actors, to an extent, they're puppets, or marionettes, even if you like, super marionettes. But they also have to put a lot of themselves into it. It is very real acting. Driving the HUDs, it's a kind of very technical acting, but it's everything coming together.
Well, when Tara and Ketsui are providing us with those physical movements and motion and action sequences, it frees us up to have hands free to use those things like the Leluca HUDs to change expressions and to be concerned with when am I stopping and starting my, my jaw motion for the lip sync and that sort of thing. So they are puppets, they are marionettes, and it's multiple puppeteers who are really manipulating each one of them in any given sequence. So Tara and Ketsui are the ones who are moving the legs and the arms and all of that. and the actors doing the voices are the ones who are driving facial expressions and lip sync and that sort of thing. So it's a really interesting collaborative process.
Mm. Yes, it was a lot of work, but I think it's been worth it. Do you think it's been worth it, audience?
I have my finger on the eject button. And look at that response, Saffia. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just real life movie making. You are approaching it from that side. I find that, very charming, very professional. I did work with a few Hollywood people. And when I was complaining that I was trying to drive a bus with 2 people over a sim, and I was complaining it took me 2 days to get a 1 minute. Tony just looked at me and he said, yeah, so?
Well, so much filmmaking has, and even if you think back 10, 15 years ago, and you think about, virtual components to filmmaking, CGI and whatnot, and it was, $150, $200 million. But really that technology is becoming more affordable such that you're seeing more and more of that integrated into what we would now consider today to be fairly low budget films. And by low budget, nowadays 10 million is, regarded as a low budget film. But I do think that there's a merger coming where we're going to see more of an opportunity to work virtually, to work at a distance with collaborators and fellow filmmakers and do all sorts of interesting things together. We're kind of, in some ways, coming back to using this platform to do what is almost closer to theater. It's a combination of a puppet show, radio drama, and live theater, and then we just happen to capture it on film so that we can then edit it and turn it into, video storytelling. But that's a pretty interesting junction, crossroads to find ourselves at, where these platforms and these technologies are really democratizing creative technology in such a way that you don't have to have $10 million to tell the story you want to tell. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, true, and I think this is an important time, and for this, I think, I have a feeling that this is the time that we'll get a breakthrough for our work. Also, you're using the system and, all kinds of actings and ways to film it. Before, the silly walking of avatars would disturb me. If I saw a movie, then the movie would be great, but walking up a stair or sitting down, like you said. But
Right.
these, with all the tricks and the HUDs and the systems that we use, we've mastered them, and you can still see it's made in Second Life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the silliness is gone from it. I made a drama once, and I asked my daughter, "What do you think of this film?" And she said, "Mom, the bus driver's feet are sticking through the bus, really." And the hair waving through the bodies and all this. Seen one thing like film. So my compliments. That's really, really, really good.
Yeah. I have spent hours trying to work out how to hide a hole in someone's shirt.
Yes.
Great. That's how it should be done. Yeah. A good pair of eyes and hard work.
Yeah. And then he just put on an alpha and it was perfect.
And you can't do that in real life, and somebody has a hole in their shirt.
Have to get the seamstress on set sewing it up frantically.
Yeah. So questions from the audience. We have some time left. People typing. So Gwen says she has a friend who's been writing animation engines for Disney since the 90s. And she's always telling me how much faster her work is these days. We have quite a lot of people in our group that work with Blender and combine it with machinima.
I would say if anyone wants to be in later episodes of the Omega Hex, there will be a need for extras. And
Do you have a group or a website where we...
Yeah, I'm just seeing, is Angela still here? Angel, how should people contact you? Can they join the group? Yeah, we'll have Gwen, we'll have Panzer.
Well, I'll be an extra if you ever have something for a robot or a
And
ding.
Mary. Yes, and Chantal, yes. And actually, I was thinking, Zander, that some of our taller guests here today might have a role later in the series.
I think I know where you're where you're envisioning that. Yes, I think that would be terrific.
Yeah.
Hey, great.
Ultimately, this really does, come down to being a celebration of the diversity of the Fairelands community. That becomes more and more clear as the story goes on. So, yeah, that our sixth episode, the only spoiler you're going to get from me is just that in the end, that diversity is front and center in a big, important way.
So it would be lovely to have much diversity. Well, yeah, maybe.
We have people that say to die on camera if necessary. No, that's more for your bad reviews.
Well, we let the kid off the hook, so I don't know. Maybe somebody does have to pay the ultimate price. Who knows? Who knows?
Did you see the response from the audience when the kid got attacked?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Actually, Sandra and I had talked about that, and I was just really fascinated to see if it did work. It did work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. You write things, and you hope that people will connect with it emotionally, and in that moment, I think my bigger concern than people, I felt like, obviously he's cute. Beryl does an amazing job with the voice for that part. I didn't think that there was any question that people would make an emotional connection to both the boy and in that moment to Quinn, because the whole function of that obviously is to soften him somewhat. He's been such a hard ass the whole time. But we see there in that moment that, this is a guy who cares for people. My concern was, are we going to get lynched because we put the boy in danger? That was my that was my real concern. Was like they'll connect too much to this. Oh my gosh, what have we done? Yeah, I saw that, Quinn. No comment. No comment. I'm sorry. I can't reveal the truth. I'll say that there's history there. That's for sure. Whether that leads to a future or not, I don't know. She says at one point in that first scene with him, "How's Nikolai?" And so we don't. At this point, we don't know who Nikolai is. We're not sure what. Quinn's answer is recovering. So we'll see what that actually turns out to mean.
Well, Gwen, if you're going to write fanfic, I'll let you have some images from the film if you want. Lil, it was lovely to see you. I'm glad you were able to make it.
And thank you for all the support of Jinx, Lil. Thank you for Nectarine Moon. Thank you for an amazing Jalen Bale. You and Jalala did an amazing Jalen Bale the other day. Incredible. It's a beautiful region, and we're just so blessed to have the support of all these amazing fantasy roleplay communities. Yeah. Lots more Centaur action coming in later episodes. Very, very important part that the Centaur community plays in later stories.
Yes. They will be back.
Okay. Yeah, this all brings best out of Second Life, I think. Community,
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
Really excited to bring the second episode in because you'll meet the other two central characters to the story. And one of those is here with us today. I don't think Jorge is with us, is he? At the moment? Doesn't look like it. But Mav Michaeli Zandi is, and Mav, of course, the voice of Mr. Biggins, who probably has a bigger fan club than all the rest of us combined in Second Life, and rightfully so. The return of Mr. Biggins and Quinn together again. If you know the backstory there from the Blackened Mirror, you'll know their history is somewhat fraught.
Yeah. And you'll get to see it hopefully soon.
Yeah.
It's Logan here in local chat is Mav or Mr. Biggins.
Great voice.
And some beautiful Fairelands coming up as well. I don't think we can give too much away other than to say that if you're a fan of The Looking Glass, and if you're and what those amazing world builders do, and if you're a fan of Amethyst Titelda and Scarlet Fae, you're going to be real happy you stuck around for later episodes, as will fans of Walton Wainwright. Did he just do that? Why, yes, he did.
And one other.
Oh, indeed. If you're a Quest fan from years past, you're going to get to revisit a beloved Faireland realm. So how wonderful, talking about world builders who keep entire worlds in their back pocket. Thank goodness for Gidget Adagio.
Yeah. So there's going to be lots to see, lots of lovely backgrounds, and there's also lots of lovely stories to come.
We're going to be showing the film again tonight at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. SLT, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
And now, Saffia, is the story, is the video now posted on the Fairelands Media website?
No, I'm just going to run away and do that now.
Right. So after this, few minutes later, you'll be able to catch it on the website whenever you like.
And you'll also find lots of other stuff on the website. It's not finished yet, but there's notes on current characters, and I'll add more characters as the episodes come in. So I didn't want to kind of overwhelm you with people you're not going to meet till episode 4. So you've just got sort of links to the characters in episode 1.
Thank you all so much for being here. You've made
Yes,
this a
thank
really
you.
special morning for us. Really special morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is in your part of the world.
Yes, and thank you so much. I'm so glad you all liked it.
Yes, thank you everybody, and thank you Zander and Saffia more than anything for your wonderful film. Well, first episode. Hey guys, if you, before